I know a lot of people have talked about the water. Part of the proffers is that no potable water from the city will be used for this data center, except for bridging for like a short amount of time. And it will not be used, help me out, for the bridging and for like regular use that, any business would have for bathrooms and kitchens and those kinds of things. So I know that the water use has been brought up a lot this evening. I wanted to address that. We've talked a lot. There's been some discussion about noise. We talked about, in here we have asked that there are provisions about noise, that we will test the noise before and then after built. So before anything is built and then after things are built, and that the noise levels have to be within certain decibels. So that can be, it's not just decibels like right next to the building, but from any habitable buildings that surround the data centers. So, those are a couple of them that we have put in. Yes, we also asked that the generators that are used are Tier 4 or the equivalent, or natural gas grid. So that, again, we're looking at the pollution, the air pollution from the generators. These are diesel generators unless they go with a natural gas provision. And that, we are looking out for the people who are living around there, that they also be encased. And what else do we have? So that the generators came out in that. Go ahead, pick up some things.
I'll pick up a couple more. The Planning Commission recommended the water service agreement go through the public hearing process. So we get public input. That made it into our final wording at the work session tonight. Being a user of the river myself, kayaking and whatnot, I got some clarification in the wording that in no event shall groundwater or raw water drawn directly from the Rappahannock River, nor water from the quarry will be used for data center cooling. So that's tightened up to protect the river and the quarry specifically.
If I could jump in there, we also talked about that there would be no new discharge into the Rappahannock, that if not treated on site, it would be redirected back to the city for treatment. So no new water discharge straight into the Rappahannock.
Madam Mayor, if I might
Yes.
talk about setbacks a little bit. All right, we had a long conversation about setbacks and accepted the original ordinance as it was originally drafted had different setbacks for different categories of residential use. Single-family homes and apartments had different setbacks levels, and I think the Planning Commission quite rightfully felt that didn't make sense, right? That a home is a home is a home, and that all forms of homes should have the same amount of setbacks. So we adopted the recommendation to extend a uniform 200-foot setback for all residential uses, no matter what form they take. And Planning Commission also recommended to us, in a sense, on the other side, is to actually decrease the amount of setback from public right-of-ways from 150 feet down to 25 feet. And that was it. We had a long conversation about the sort of the compromises here, that if we were going to increase setbacks in one part of the parcel, we were going to have to decrease setbacks in the other part of the parcel to ensure that there's enough developable area left to make a data center campus make sense. So I think we came to a consensus that it was more important to us that we maximize the setback from residences and minimize the setbacks from commercial thoroughfares. So we adopted the Planning Commission's recommendations on both fronts, right, to both increase them from residential and decrease them from street frontages.
Mr. Graham?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I'll let Councilor Holmes finish if you were going to go over the.
I was just going to also say that, that one of the stipulations is that from the Rappahannock River, that the sight lines, that you will not be able to see the data centers or any of the surrounding buildings that they may have to support the data center. So that's also in here. Or the accessories on the roof. Yeah. So you won't be able, from the river, that's part of the stipulation. You will not be able to see that.
If I may now, Madam Mayor, so I appreciate Councilor Holmes, first you bringing this up and then other councilors joining in on all of the different stipulations that we have reviewed during this process. And I wanted to just speak very briefly to the issue of by right versus special use permit. And why in this case we are looking at a by right use. The reason is because we have said publicly in previous meetings, we are looking at this technology overlay district to be a single data center campus. We are not looking at applying this technology overlay district to the entire city. We are looking at very specific contiguous parcels of land with this rezoning. And because of that, a special use permit process would not necessarily give additional input opportunities that we have not already had throughout multiple public hearings, planning commission, other city council meetings. What we're doing here today is the same thing that we've been doing for the past few months, and opening up these meetings, having public hearings, getting your input, not just at meetings, but in between meetings. I know Councilor McIntosh has had his coffee sessions. I know all of us have responded to emails, phone calls, people we've just happened to see out and about in Fredericksburg. This is not something that is being done without input from the public. And a by right development does not mean that we are going the cheapest route, the easiest route, or the route that allows corners to be cut. As my colleagues around this horseshoe have talked about, there are many different stipulations that are being thought through and included in this ordinance so that we can have the regulations in place to protect the residents of Fredericksburg now and in the future. And that is why at this time, for this type of rezoning, this is why we're looking at a by right use. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Mayor Fry?
And thank you. And to add on to what Councilor Graham just said, if you look at it for the public's sake, for everyone who's saying SUPs, special use permits, what we're doing right now in the present moment as I'm speaking, we're doing by right, if you notice, with stipulations. We're doing by right with rules. It's not quite a SUP, but it's by right with requirements, pretty much. So you have an elected body that we went through the whole thing, and we added what needed to be added. And every suggestion that was put on the table by our planning commission, because everybody here said we didn't listen to the planning commission. Not everybody. A lot of people say we didn't listen to the planning commission. That's not true. The recommendations that they made are actually in here. We said that we wanted data centers in the city of Fredericksburg, and talking about transparency, you have an honest council. We said it, and we set a goal, and we're making it happen. And we took the input, and it's within this document right here. The document will be released tomorrow, and it'll be on the website. So everything that's added that we discussed tonight, you'll be able to see it tomorrow. So thank you.
Actually, today. I did want to just also address trails. I'm a kayaker. I'm a cyclist. I've been on those trails. The Epiphany Trail is the part that's impacted, and that is already today on private land. That is, the landowner has allowed people to use that property, but it's not something that the city owns and the city can control to some extent. But we've asked, and we'll work with the developer to try to maintain and maybe expand the existing trail system. But again, just to make sure we are looking out for the activities that people do around town, and trails are certainly one of those priorities.